Hey folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery. Today I'm going to be sharing a quick video. We're going to be making quilling paper begonias. And instead of the usual 1/8 inch strips, this time we're going to be using super thin 1/16 inch strips. This pretty pink is made by JJ Quilling Design. It's a color called Cerise. I also have a bright yellow that's also made by JJ, and this is called Buttercup Yellow. I'll leave some links down below where you can find some options for the thin 1/16 inch paper. I have cut my own before, but we're going to be using quite a bit here. You'll also want some white glue in a needle nose container, tacky glue if you have it. I would recommend a slotted quilling tool for this project. I'm going to be using the Savvy slotted tool. That's really great because you can just twist your fingers instead of using your whole wrist. Recommend that. Also some tweezers, a small paintbrush, a cork workboard with some wax paper on top so you have a place to build your flower. And I almost forgot, we're going to be molding these later. I like to do it on the underside of a quilling mold, but if you just have like a small bowl or something like that, that will work as well. So these begonias are going to have a few different layers to them. The first thing we're going to do is make the most outside layer, which are going to be the largest petals. I'm taking 3 strips of this pink 1/16 inch strips. These are about 18 inches long. And I'm going to tear the ends off of both sides. And then I'm going to start gluing them all together end to end to make one really long strip from these 3 all together. So just a tiny bit of glue on the end of one and then sandwich the next one on top. It's okay if it's a tiny bit crooked, I wouldn't make yourself crazy, but you want it to be as straight as possible. And then I'm going to add the third one on in the same way. At this point, it's just a matter of rolling this entire strip all the way from end to end. I know there are other techniques out there where instead of gluing the pieces, you kind of just tuck them into each other as you roll. I wouldn't recommend that for the 16-inch paper. I feel like it's so thin that they would just sort of slip out, but if that's a technique that you're comfortable with, go for it. Let me know how it turns out. I'd love to hear if it works. It is a little bit tricky getting this, there we go, getting this thin paper to stay as you're rolling it. When it gets a little bit bigger, it starts to kind of go off to the side and then you're going to lose your coil. So I found if I kind of sandwich my fingers on either side of it, it doesn't give it anywhere else to go and it makes it a lot easier. Oh, as I lose it as it comes off. Easy fix. But anyway, sandwiching it like that makes it easier as you're rolling when it's this long. Let's just coil that up again, and we're going to glue the end in this tight coil and secure that, let it dry for a moment. Once that's dry, you can pinch one side real hard. It's going to be difficult, but you just want to get a tiny little point there, and then you can, if you want to, push that one end in just slightly, just to give it a little bit of a dip. You don't really want it to be super domed there, just a tiny little dip right on the end. After that, we're going to flip it over, add some glue to the back side, and brush that out so it's all over the back, and that will keep the shape as it dries. You're going to want to make 4 of these in total. So after that one, set it aside on some wax paper and make 3 more exactly the same way. The next thing we're going to do is make another layer of pink petals. These ones are going to be a little bit smaller. This time I am taking this 18-inch strip and folding it in half. I'm going to be using 1/2 for each petal. And this is a little bit similar. We're going to take our same slotted tool again, roll this all the way to the end at some point. This is being difficult. There we go. All right, so we're going to roll this strip all the way to the end. And it's another thing I like about the Savvy slotted tool is not only is a little bit less pressure on your wrist and doesn't make it sore when you're doing a lot of twirling, but that slotted end of it, the working end, is really, really small, so it doesn't make a big crimp in your paper. But it sometimes can be a little tricky, especially when it's bent a little bit like mine is from dropping it a few times. That it's a little bit tricky to get it in there sometimes. But anyway, so get that rolled all the way to the end, and then I let it open up just a tiny, tiny bit in my hand. I just let it relax just for a second. Put some glue on the end, and then give this one another good pinch. There we go. We're going to need about 6 of those all together. And now we're going to be using the yellow to make the final layer of this flower. These strips are about 4.5 inches long, or about 1/4 of that 18-inch sheet that we were using before. And very similar, we're going to roll this up all the way to the end and glue the tail bit on so it is secure. But this time, instead of pinching it at all, we're just going to leave it in a tight coil. Leave these round, just like that. And for each flower, I used about 5 of these. So at this point, you should have all of your pieces made. You have your 4 biggest petals, 6 of the small petals, and then 5 of these little round pieces. I'm not sure what they're called in a begonia, but they're the inner part of the flower is these small yellow pieces. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our tacky glue this time. If you have it, it's not necessary for this, but I find it makes it a little bit easier because after we apply a little bit of tacky glue to the edges, we're going to start molding this flower. And the tacky glue will keep the flower together while you put it in the mold. I'll show you in a second when we get the glue on. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm applying a tiny bit of glue to the pointed edge of these petals. And of course, you don't have to go straight from the bottle for this. You can use something to apply it as well. And after I get all 4 together, just like this, I'm going to let it set for just a minute or 2. I really don't want this to dry all the way. I want it to have a little bit of give to it, and that's why the tacky glue works so well for this, because it will hold it together before it's solid. And like I showed before, one of these quilling molds, this is the underside. This is not the side that they advertise using it for, but it works really well in making flower cups. And all I need to do is just kind of press it in gently, and as long as you let it dry enough, the petals will stay together, and it will also kind of bow. Like I said, you have sort of a flower cup. Now I'm going to start putting in the other 2 layers of these begonia flower petals. I'm going to use some tweezers, and I just put some more tacky glue on the wax paper because I'm going to just dip. This method here is a little bit easier when you're working with small pieces. And I didn't really have a specific way of doing this. I just kind of put all 6 of these in. They do sort of have to shingle a little bit, but it makes it look a little bit more lifelike. If you look up an actual begonia flower, they have more than just these 3 layers of petals. I'm kind of simplifying it here. But the petals sort of stand up a bit in the middle of the flower. So if you shingle them a little bit, they will have the opportunity to kind of stand a little bit higher in the middle. Ooh. So I'm going to keep going until I get all 6 of the small pink petals where I'd like them. And now I can start loading in the yellow, I'm going to call these petals, the yellow petals in as well. And for these, I just kind of place them in the center. If you can't fit 5, that's fine. I just sort of, some of them are going to be lined up in a row and then kind of 2 on the sides. There's not really any rhyme or reason to this. Again, if you look at the picture of a begonia, they're just kind of piled on top of each other, right in the middle, just like that. Get the other 2 on, and that's about it. Remember, you do have a little bit of wiggle room with the tacky glue. You can move things around if you need to. If you don't like the way something's lining up, by all means, take them out, move them around. Just keep playing until you're happy. You do have a little bit of time. Now you can use these begonias just the way they are for your cards or whatever other quilling arrangements you have, but if you want to make them a little bit more 3D, you can also make flower stems out of 18 gauge wire wrapped up with some floral tape, and then I make a little cup with some leaf green paper, glue that on the end, and then you can just glue one of your flowers right into that by putting a little bit of tacky glue or hot glue right on the end of the leaf green cup, and just place your flower right in there and let it dry. You can put these in little bouquet type displays or just in a little flower pot on its own or a little vase. Whatever you think is best, but it's a different way to display your begonias. It is definitely fun to play around with these really thin strips. You can get much more delicate petals. You're welcome to try this with thicker paper. I wouldn't go any thicker at all than the 1/8 inch or 3mm quilling strips, but it's definitely going to be a little bit bulkier and maybe not sit exactly the same way, but go ahead and give it a try. I also want to mention, if you're watching this video live as it airs in mid-August, don't forget about the Papercraft Summit that is sponsored by Rebecca Page. It is going to be live starting next Monday, August 16th, running all week. You can watch it free, or you can sign up for the VIP access and you can watch it for the entire year. You'll have access to that. The link will be down in the description box below the video with any other supplies you might need, any other videos I think you'd watch. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll be notified of my next video. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.